Hello. In the last module, we talked about why we need a Kafka, what are the use cases of Kafka. In this video, we'll talk about the architecture of Kafka. Now, so if we have to define a Kafka in a sort of in a few words, we'll say it's a streaming data platform. So what does it mean is a data will be continuously flowing in and get stored in a messaging system, which is your Kafka, and then finally it will get processed in the downstream. So how it look like in the Kafka streaming architecture is you have your Kafka deployed. This is your Kafka ecosystems. Now there are different source of data which is coming from different data sources. It can be your mobile app, it can be a web application log, or it can be a user data coming from an application. So data get inserted into your Kafka. Finally, you will apply some other platforms, or it can be your Kafka stream. It can be your Kafka stream API to transform that particular record, and then finally it get displayed to some other visualization tool. Now, for example, let's see one of the example. Suppose you have a web order application where you accept an order. You have order ID, which is 12, and then order value is 65. That's the price of the order item, which is $65. And then order items, it's a 45. Now, this gets stored inside your Kafka in the form of JSON. Now, you have a visualization tool that will display each of the order along with the details. So for in this example, your order item is 45. So in your databases or another data source, you have the informations about mapping the order items number to the description. Say for example, it's a pen. Now, when we display this order informations in your visualization tool, it will be displayed in the form of order ID 12, order value 65, and the item that get in this particular order is your pen. Now, this is called the transformation in which you are converting your order items to this particular description of an item. That's a pen here. So you can use any one of this framework like Spark, Storm, Flink, Kinesis, or Kinesis Analysis, or the Kafka Stream. We'll be looking about how to perform this kind of transformation that we call a transformation using the K-stream and the KSQL in the further module in this program. And then you can use any like the superset or your any Tableau, any UI tools to have the visualization of this particular record. So this is the end-to-end Kafka streaming architecture that you can deploy. You can even use it for the batch processing. When you said batch processing, is you run every 5 minutes as a report, and then it can fit into your data warehouse or the visualization tool again. So when we talks about Kafka stream architecture, there will be a source of data which is coming continuously, and then it gets stored in the Kafka, and then further it get transformations in the format that you want to do in your incoming data in the real time, as well as in the background batch processing. So you have both the way. Just to get more idea about Kafka, let me just talk about what are the component that it has is. So at the high level, you have the messaging server, which consists of your Kafka. So you get deployed this Kafka, and then in order to store the data in the Kafka, you need to define a namespace that's called a topic. Now, in the previous example, we are receiving an order. So let's say we create a topic called the name called order. Now, seeing on the left side of the messaging server is the application that push the records or store the data in the messaging server. That's our is Kafka. So this publisher is your web application that generate your web order. That's a order ID, order value, and order item that we talked about in the previous slide. Now, this information gets stored into this particular topic, which is called an order. So order can be treated like a database when you insert a record in the relational database management systems, or it can be treated like a table, okay? Because there is no differentiations of the database and table in the case of the Kafka, so it can be treated as a table, okay? Now, there can be a lot of publisher or application that push the record to this particular topic, and the application that send the message to the messaging servers are called publisher. So it's a nomenclature that used in the Kafka architecture. And the message that get consumed on the other side for further processing in a downstream are called subscriber. So like, for example, coming back to the previous example in the web order, what we can do is we can develop an SMS application that consume this message, this particular order detail, and we dispatch the SMS to the customer saying that we have received an order for that particular item with so and so value. So these are the subscriber. You can have multiple subscriber, and sometimes we can it's also refer as consumer. So publisher can be also treated as producer that sends the message. Message is nothing, your data that you get, and it also sometimes say publisher. Okay, so do not get confused that sometime some article will use publisher, sometime will use as a producer. They are interchangeable as long as they produce the message and send it to the Kafka. And on the other side, for further processing, we have subscriber or the consumer in that. So Kafka is a distributed streaming platform that support the publishing and subscriber to the streaming of records. It's also provide fault tolerant storage. Okay, and what is a fault tolerant storage? Is whatever the data or the message that you push to the topic or underlying in your file system, it gets stored in a log file. Okay, and it gets stored in a log file, and then it gets replicated to the various servers. So we'll talk more in detail later on for that. Now it's a publisher and subscriber of records. It's fault tolerant storage. Whatever you get stored, it get in the topic log. There is a concept called the partition that we'll talk more in detail when we talks about the module in the internal. We'll not go more in detail here. For the time being, just assume that whenever you insert a record to your here in your topics in the order, there'll be one folder called log, okay, and there it store the data in that. So the naming convention is of the log is that for each of the topic that you created, if it is by default one partition, it will be like order -0. This is the partition number, and then you'll have a log file. I'll show you more in detail about storing the topic behind the directory in that ecosystem that we'll see later on to that. Now it can